Good evening, everyone, and happy Monday to all of you. I hope your week has really kicked off to a great start and that you're really doing all you can to be able to live your full potential as a person. And I just wanted to check in with you all and share some amazing support and training about how to avoid money madness. Okay, so what do I mean by money madness? What I mean is that there's a lot of confusion about money, but what's really confusing, as you know, if you've been in this community for any period of time, is that it's really our relationship with things that are confusing. And at the core of it, it's our emotional conditioning that we've been experiencing our whole lives, and all of the people that came before us, right? Our parents, our grandparents, everybody all the way back in our, what we call like our ancestral line, and all of their emotional challenges. It's really something that they've all been experiencing. And this is like a pattern that happens with people's emotions over multiple generations and behaviors. And, you know, people repeat these kinds of outcomes over and over, no matter how much people sort of know that they want to avoid it. And the same thing happens with our relationship with money, because our emotional foundation is our foundation for everything. So I feel like there's a lot of confusion about money and the relationship with money, because we've been taught so many different things. We've been trained emotionally for generations, and then we're trained all the time with people that are around us, and we are constantly being essentially transformed in many, many negative ways by our life experiences and a lot of the people in our lives. And we really just want to be cognizant of that, because we're having some sort of a transformation all the time. We're getting conditioned for one thing or the other, and we're getting conditioned all the time for things that may not serve us. And one of the big things that is very confusing for people, especially people who have struggled emotionally or have a family pattern of lots of types of, let's just say, emotional conditioning that ends up creating conditions in real life. And that's the way you want to think about it, right? Is that your conditioning as a person, no matter how far back it comes, from grandma and grandpa, from everyone that ever came before you in life, from everyone around you, your conditioning creates conditions. It creates them in your life, literal, actual things. And that can be very positive, right? Your thinking and your emotions create very positive things. And then they also can create, as many of you know, the exact opposite outcome that you intend. And our conditioning emotionally, which is often super confusing, creates conditions that end up being like mental health conditions. So conditioning creates conditions. And it's either going to be the ones that you want or the ones that you don't want. So it's going to be important to look at strategies and whether they work for you or not, whether things that you have learned along the way are serving you to the outcome you want or not. Because just because somebody taught them to you, or you heard them, or they were said, or our culture believes them, you need to be a very, very discerning person to ask yourself, does that make friggin' sense at all? Is that working for me? And one of the biggest areas where we see that this is not working for people is in their relationship with money. And this issue creates, multiple generations that just go on and on and on of people underachieving. It creates generations of poverty. And even if people have resources, it still can create a complete experience of poverty. Hi, Thomas. Good to see you. Hi. And this is really important to watch out for. So we want to have you check out things within yourself that you're believing and recognize, does that work for me? Or was that sort of, I picked that up somewhere? And if something doesn't really make sense and it doesn't work, and you haven't really fully like understood whether or not it's right for you or not, then just because you've heard it, if it does not completely resonate for you in a way that gets you the outcomes you want, then you want to just delete it out of your consciousness. So the way this works with money, which is very, very confusing, because when people have emotional struggles, they often have financial struggles. These things just go hand in hand. And so what we'll hear a lot is that people are very concerned all the time about money. They're concerned about future money. They're concerned about going into debt. And they also have a lot of emotional strategies about money that feel very, very responsible, right? I am so responsible because my mom and dad or grandpa and grandpa always taught me never to go into debt, or, you know, whatever these things might be. They always taught me to make sure you have an emergency fund and save for a rainy day. And, you know, there's hundreds of sayings, and there's hundreds of what they end up being are strategies. And hi, Jules. Hi, Jules. This is a good one. This is a really good one for you too. So what they end up being is they end up being strategies for us, and we don't even realize it. And we're impacted by that on a real material level. So I want you to think about things like the difference between investing in something or spending money on something that you feel deeply intentional about, right? That you've in your mind assigned an importance to, and you feel a resonance with it, and you feel this is something that I value and something that I believe will create value in my life. And hi, Chris. Hi. I love it. Everybody's there. So I love this. Hi, Christy. We missed you on Sunday or Saturday. And by the way, Deanna forgot what day the party was. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Okay, let me focus. So what can happen is, you know, we're thinking we want to be super, super responsible. And in some cases, these things are very helpful, and we can see, does that create an outcome that I want for myself? But in many places, people are using the same strategy for money all across the board, and it's really limiting their life. And so, you know, there's a difference between feeling like there's something really important that you value, and it could be anything, and you want to invest in that, and you want to use resources, or you want to use the resources of the world, right? Which we can like call credit. And you value something and you believe it's going to bring value to your life. And then from that, you're going to be able to create more value with what it brought to your life. And it's going to have this beautiful, reverberating, valuable effect. And that's a really amazing thing to do with yourself and resources and value, because the focus then is about value. The focus is about intention. The focus is about creating more and exponentially having that work for you in your life in the way that you want it to. And in that case, that's something that feels very intuitive to do. But when we have conditioning that says things like, I can never go into debt, then even though that seems like a smart strategy, that's a really blanket strategy for something. And it doesn't actually line up with the people that are the most successful in this life. So even though we have to be really discerning to notice things like, well, I don't believe that it's beneficial for me to go into debt over needing to have 14 big screen TVs or something. That's a really sound kind of thing to look at. But our whole lives are based on a premise of things that we do want to invest in. And when we're really conscious about it, like we want to invest in a home and we want it now, and we don't want to wait until we can pay $500,000 for it in 30 years to get into it, then we make an investment on who it is we want to be now, the value that we want. We even agree to pay a lot more for it because that value is so important to us, and we're going to maximize the value of that situation. And we make a lot of choices like that. We go into investment debt in order to build something for ourselves, to create something for ourselves, and we have a lot of intention around that. So we have a lot of great training in that area, and in fact, our entire culture is some of the richest people, the most success that is ever created in the lives of all humans, and really any human being that ever gets themselves the ability to buy a home is right there. That is a huge investment. That is a major choice of taking on very intelligent debt, because something like real estate is one of the smartest investments that anybody ever makes, actually, on planet Earth. This is where people exponentially create value and then have that value in their life, and then they keep taking that value and then putting it into another house and putting it into another house, and using the equity and just living in the house creates all of this value for them. So we have these great examples of creating value and using investment debt and having a relationship with money that is really, really intelligent. And yet we can have all kinds of aspects of our relationship with money that is very, very limiting. And an example would be like, if you're needing development for yourself as a person, but you have a strategy that says, I will never go into debt for anything. And I am so smart and I'm so responsible, and my mom taught me that. And I feel so good that I have no debt, even though I want to blow my brains out every day and I'm miserable. That right there may not be your greatest strategy. And it may be a strategy for, if your goal is to never have debt, then you'll have that outcome. But if your goal is something else in your life, it could be investing in your own self, in your own growth. It could be investing that in any way, shape, or form. It really applies to anything. So if we just apply blanket strategies with our resources and the resources that the world has available for us to use, like all these lending institutions that provide credit and the ability to live the American dream now, and we somehow don't apply that to like, great, I've got the American dream with my house and my cars and my furniture and everything that I just slapped on a credit card because I wanted it now and I wanted to feel that value now. I wanted to create happiness, and you did that. But you're then in that life and you feel, anxious, you feel miserable, you feel unhappy, exhausted, you feel like you're not living your best, health and happiness and joy, and you're not feeling the way that you want to. But then you're still like, but I'm never going to do debt. I'm never going to do debt. I will be the person that doesn't do debt. But then meanwhile, like, you're just totally suffering your whole life, even though you actually use investment debt in very intelligent ways. Then your life is going to be limited, especially if you do need support. Let me look at what Jules was saying. Yes, exactly, Jules, exactly. So let me just finish by saying this part, which is that if you are needing something and deep inside of you, you recognize that, and that intelligence, your navigation system is saying, and that's whatever it is. In this case, it could be needing to grow your emotional foundation so it's super strong, so that you can add that to your cool foundation of your house and your cars and your job and everything else in your life. And you feel you need that, but you are holding yourself back because of what seems like a responsible financial strategy. You'll recognize, if we look at it right now, that that's really an emotional strategy. And you want to just look to see, does that get you what you want? Because it's this thing that happens where people feel like they can't trust themselves. And it's so amazing to see people want to be so responsible and having taken those lessons to heart in their life. However, anything that we ever learn, we still need to be able to be conscious enough to really evaluate, okay, what is my outcome that I want in life? How do I want to feel? How do I want to be? What am I wanting? Am I wanting to wait 30 years to buy this, to live in this house by the time I can afford it? Then some people might do that. Do I want to wait 30 years before I can afford to, grow my emotional foundation to what I want it to be? Some people might, but you want to be making decisions about that, because when it's a decision about, anything in life, I just don't want to have debt, or I don't want to do this, or I don't believe in this or that. All important things for you, for yourself personally, but on an emotional level, an ability to create a life of full potential, you're just going to want to evaluate those things about how that really works and how it can really work for you. And I love just the way you can apply this to literally anything, right? Because maybe for someone, it is my deepest desire to buy 14 big screen TVs, and that is my choice, and I've thought it through, and that's really where I want to be able to live like that right now. That's a sovereign choice of somebody's. But where people get a little confused is they're really wanting to make sure that they don't just be impulsive and compulsive, and so they set these barriers for themselves, and it's intelligent on many levels, but it's too blanket. It's too just a barrier, right? Versus it's like everything has a conscious strategy to it. So Jules, I love what you're saying, right? About it's this intelligence about it. And we've been taught that that if we trust ourselves, we'll like fuck our whole lives up. So we get really confused along the way. We are told to be a version of a person. We're given kind of a prescription to do that. And our messaging all the time is like, whatever you do, don't be yourself or you'll screw it up. So we tend to think we can't trust ourselves. But most of the time when we're making decisions and then we think, they didn't work out the way they wanted, in all reality, if you really go and assess those were not actually your decisions. They were the decisions of a bunch of random messages that you got throughout your life, and it was confusing, and it was not really your highest self making the decisions that ended up sort of not going as ideally as you wanted to. But even that can be turned on its head, because so many people feel like they've done so many things, they feel like they've wasted a lot, so they're trying to be super rigid and careful. Well, that's another very limiting belief. Rather than everything that I have ever done, every decision I ever made, everywhere I ever invested in anything, everything that ever happened is completely and totally valuable to me, because I decide to make it that way, and I decide to use that to my absolute advantage, right? So I can remember a long, long time ago, a boyfriend in my life, and I don't know how many of you have been there, but I definitely over-invested at the time. I thought I did, at least, in some things in a life with him. And that relationship didn't work out. And for a little while, I thought I lost something. And I remember this amazing day. I was walking down the street in Manhattan, and I thought to myself, oh my God, I just bought myself the most incredible life lesson. And every penny was worth it. And it was. And in fact, I've utilized it every day of my life to help myself and other people. And so there's nothing, right? Every single thing, Jules, this one you'll definitely resonate with, right? Like every single thing was of value. And if we think it's not, then we're actually making ourselves poorer than when we realize everything we've ever done, we've gotten some data back, and it's completely of value. And how about everything that we've tried has been so valuable, and some piece of it gave us, Julie, come on, I was waiting for you, right? I'm definitely thinking of you on this one. We are soul sisters here. And so many people are, right? We are creatures who learn as we go, and we make investments in things as we go. And when we value the hell out of it, it really pays off. So, no matter what, even though lots of things that everybody's done, especially say in this case, trying to, go to therapy and do all these important things and try different things that really help you access being able to be in complete control of your emotions and behaviors and live that life of full potential. Every single thing taught you some piece of it. It got you somewhere. And there have been times when, I will say, actually recently I was hired a consultant for something as I'm about to launch my book. And within the first hour of working with her, even though there was more stuff that's going to help me reach more people with my book, and that was my goal, right? That was my outcome. It wasn't about money. It was about how am I going to reach as many people as possible with this book, because not everybody can also afford to do everything that they want to do to help themselves. So within an hour, because I was looking for the value in everything that she did, this one simple thing that she already taught me is literally going to help millions of people because of her expertise. Now, the rest of whatever she helps with is going to be icing on the cake, because I'll value the hell out of it. But right in that moment, it was worth every single thing that was like, I want to learn something that I don't understand because that's not my expertise. My expertise is what I put in the book. My expertise is not about making sure that the book reaches who I mean for it to reach. So when we see every situation that way, then again, we get richer and richer, and then we feel more confident in everything that we do. And we maximize the potential of every single situation, right? But if every single thing is always like, it has to be this way, or it didn't work, it wasn't valuable, and we're conditioned to that, right? We're conditioned to think it's got to be all the way perfect or it wasn't of value, which is brutal. Rather than what was the value I got out of that and what is that worth to me? And when we start to think of these things differently in everything, and it can be anything, it can be going to a party and you thought that was really fun, and yet now I didn't do some of the things that I normally do on a Saturday. Well, you could think like that, or you can be looking at every single which way that you enjoyed that party, but also all of the things that were so amazing for you as a person, for any choice that you make and any move, right? Any move that you made, anything that you did. In that way, it just gets so fun, and you get to feel the value and the richness in everything. So I'm going to add another piece of this, which is really important, because we've been taught so many money messages. Hey, D. Oh, I see Deanna with her thumbs up. Hey, D. We've been taught so many money messages. It is friggin' confusing. And all the time, we got to just dismantle those emotional strategies to make sure they're really working for us. So wherever you are in the continuum of your relationship with money in your financial life, you want to look at what really, really successful, at least financially successful people are doing in this world, and apply that to your own version of it. So all of these amazing innovations, all of these amazing businesses and products and companies, and this profound new age that we are in of so many amazing things that people are creating, there's an entire world of what's called venture capital. And people go to other people who have resources. It's no different than credit. It's all resources. So there's this massive pool of resources in this world. And these resources are for us to evolve our lives individually and as a collective, as a society, and everything in it. So very, very creative, smart people who want to bring the best of themselves and their gifts and their talents and their ideas to the world, they use other people's money in order to do all that, rather than waiting the 50 years it would take them to do all of that on their own. And so the world is really, really built on some very, very wealthy people that go as far back in our history who said, I'm going to use these resources and I'm going to choose to use investment debt to create some amazing things in this world. And so if we're very constricted by all of this, rather than using our strategies in a very multifaceted way, right? This strategy really makes sense for this part of my life, or this strategy right here, I want to evolve this. Really, it's about being discerning, because again, if you just think about it, we would not have many, I wouldn't even be talking to you right now here if people in this world were not using resources to better their lives and better the lives of all of us. And I would not have been able to help all the people that I've helped in my career if it wasn't for what other people have done in that way. And so we want to really, no matter where you are in the continuum with money, and you could really be challenged in a lot of ways materially right now. But this is going to be an important mindset shift, which is that the most successful people become completely capable of having a very positive relationship with money of all kinds. Other people's money, credit, lending institutions, people that care to invest in their purpose and their ideas, and they utilize resources in a collaborative way, and credit institutions are collaborative, and all kinds, there's just, it's infinite. So it will be challenging to be your most highest emotional self and your most highest financial self if there are too many limiting strategies rather than using all of them to work for you. And noticing that you use them anyway, and then applying them anywhere that you want to develop something for yourself. And it could be anything that you want. Right? So knowing that, you know, people will literally say, I am investing $10 million in something. And they're like, on their ideas and on their beliefs and on their absolute determination in order to bring something to the world that maybe then brings them $20 million from that, or they made $15 million off of that. And then they take that and they keep doing that and they keep doing that. Not because they're sitting there every day going, this is super easy to be having $10 million out there in this idea that I believe in, but because the idea they believe in is more important to bring to life and to live their potential and to change the world and to really explore their own capacity as a person. That's more important to them than what it is they've been taught about never go into debt and never, you know, just be so careful and everything. You better be so prepared for a rainy day because everything's going to rain and you're going to be in crisis and you can't trust yourself and it's a nightmare. So there's so many things to just consider, but recognizing that it's no different than if somebody's saying, I'm putting myself out there, I'm doing $1 million, I'm going to buy this property and I'm going to net, you know, $500,000 on it or whatever it is. That is going on every day around this world, and people are becoming so rich and just generating and building. And it's not, they're just literally using their ability to believe in themselves and use the mechanisms available to them in life to build and generate and just keep going. And this beautiful canvas and masterpiece that we have called life, it is all about people really using these strategies in the best way and knowing that their purpose in life is so much more important than, oh my God, I want to make sure I always have $5,000 in the bank, and I cannot not have $5,000 in the bank. And if I don't have that, then I'm completely unhinged and life isn't safe. And none of those things are actually true. And there may be some benefit to that. And it's all for you to decide. So this training tonight is to just expand and open yourself up to changing that relationship with yourself and with money, of course, to look at it in a bigger way and think bigger. Think, you know, when you think, oh, these people are all rich and they're doing all the, don't think about them like that. Think about the way that they think, not they're just so different and they're, you know, freaks of nature because they're so successful. They're thinking differently. And what we're doing in this community to help you take complete control of yourself, create your life of full potential, is to think differently and to think at a higher level, to raise your emotional capacity with these ideas, and to absolutely trust that investing in yourself, investing in what you feel you need, in what you're here to do, in what you're here to bring to the world, and all of those things, that you cannot go wrong about that, because that's coming from inside of you. But that if you're operating in fear and making strategies that are fear-based because you're afraid of the future, hi Tracy, hi Wanda, if you're afraid of the future, oh my God, I won't have this money in the future, then right there you just created that. Versus, I am so fully believing in my purpose as a person. I'm believing that resources are everywhere. I'm believing that I'm valuable and that I can use resources to become even more valuable within my own self, more valuable to the people in my life, create more value of that back to me, and focus your life on the value of you and the value of what you create. Otherwise, what can happen is that while that's all wanting to be expressed from you and you're wanting it, what we can encounter at times is that people will put literally everything else above their own self and what they need to invest in themselves. It doesn't matter what it is in life. It can be something like, again, building your emotional foundation, but it could be anything that you know you really need. And people will say all these other things matter more. And that's really challenging at times for me to see, because that's just a conditioning that we've been taught, that everything else is more valuable than us. And I promise you, we will never become rich within our own lives or in any way if we don't value ourselves in the way that we need to, and begin to be able to have a completely different relationship with money than you might have now. And I know it can be kind of confusing at times because there's so many things out there about how to have a relationship with money. But these principles are the most important foundation, because these are deep emotional strategies for you. And you can, you could watch all the Susie Orman financial advice in the world. You can take all the financial advice in the world. But if you don't have your emotional foundation, and especially around money, where it needs to be, then it's like anything. You'll have all of this great knowledge, but you'll be like, I know this stuff, and why isn't my life the way that I want it? And so shifting all of this at an emotional level is what shifts it at a financial level. And so I'm really excited for all of you to be thinking differently about this and really change the way that you look at who people are rich and they're so exceptional. And I want you to really take a different approach, which is to think about the way that they think and think about the way that you think. And when you hear something come out of your mouth, or you hear it go across this assembly line of your thoughts, to check in and just see, great, okay, how does that work? Is that working for me? Is there an upgrade that I can do to that strategy? Does it apply? Where should it apply? Where should it not apply? Is it getting me what I want? Or is it actually keeping me from what I want? And be willing to see that, because then the question is, what do I want? And is this keeping me from what I want? Or what do I want? And what do I need to do to get there? And how do I use the resources of myself and the resources all around me to make that happen? Because it doesn't matter what it is. People who have these, excuse me, sorry. People who have these big ideas, they have an idea, they have an outcome. All they start to do is think, what are the steps that are going to get me there? And then they're just the people who are willing to take those steps and be emotionally strong in taking them. And they can handle the tension that comes with investing. And you got to be able to handle that in any way, shape, or form throughout your life if you want it to be all that you do want it to be. Okay, so, sorry, I keep having something. Anyway, okay, everyone. So, I'm so glad to have all of you here. Hi, Tracy and Wanda and Jules, and I'm so glad that my girlfriends were here as well. And I really hope that every one of you that watches this really just takes your relationship with money to the next level and just take it all out of this money madness, because it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually have a lot of money gladness and you can really elevate yourself by awakening yourself to your relationship with money as being the same thing as your relationship to everything and to yourself, and to evolve it in a way that you become absolutely rich from the moment you change your thinking about it, and then you let that create the material success that you really want. Because I don't know about all of you, but for me, it's not just about, I don't create material success because it's just, I want material success. Material success is the reflection of my capacity to be of value to myself and others. And it's a reflection of my powerful creative mind and what it can create. And then it is something, and then it's valuable. And then I get to see that reflected back to me, like this masterpiece that we're all creating. And when you want to see more of the value of yourself and the life that you're living reflected back to you, then that can happen from all these principles that I'm teaching you here tonight. And I think it's really important, because for most people, it's not about money for money's sake. It's about living your life of potential and not having money madness get in the way of that. And in fact, letting money help you create your life of potential, because you have such a really positive and amazing relationship with the resources that are available to you in life and the resources that you create and you have the potential to create. Okay, everyone. So it's been a real pleasure being with you. This is like my favorite thing that I do is to spend time with all of you. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to any questions, any comments, and I'll see you soon. Take care.